Rubbing your hands together, our usual opening. Tapping over your face. Nice, relaxed, rapid movements. Sorry, I'm just making a correction there. Over your head and neck. Hands on one shoulder and your arm. Side. Part of the chest. Belly. And your legs. Sit back with your feet out and just try and get a sense of settling in. Rather than thinking about what you must do to settle in, just recognize that there's a natural tendency for this to happen, and especially people with your experience and the Tai Chi that you've done, you have an idea of what you're looking for, and what you can do is just give yourself a chance to notice why it's not happening. So an important element in this is always going to be your weight dropping. Actually, that should be very straightforward. Normally we don't have much trouble with dropping things. It's after they've dropped that we encounter the problems, but the actual drop itself is straightforward, isn't it? You've probably dropped a few things today already, spoon or keys or something you just picked up and it slipped out your hand. So to start this process of rooting down, of centering, of both body and mind quieting together, just recognize that the drop is a natural thing, but that you may be doing something, mind or body or both, that actually prevents that happening for the moment. And see if you can see what that is. It might be a bit of stiffness in your back. It might be a difficulty in actually just allowing yourself to release. Could be lots of things. And just start to gradually sort of remove the obstructions that exist between the pull of gravity and yourself, your ability to sort of settle in. In this reclining position, provided that the chair is reasonably comfortable, posture probably wouldn't be a massive issue in all of that. But now when we come to the upright position, the alignment of our posture becomes very important. Too far back so that you're sort of half hanging over your hips, or too far forwards so that you're straining in your back or your legs, will mean that there is a tightening in your body that prevents that sense of dropping down. So finding that position with about 2/3 of your weight back in your hips, feet down, finding a good position in your chair and one that is conducive to doing this. And then just again, see what might be in the way of that sense of your hips properly dropping into the chair, your shoulders properly dropping towards your hips and so on. And then recognize that your chair, and hence your hips, and to a less extent your feet and legs, are actually continuing to support you. So there must be that rising movement that neutralizes the downward movement, and you're held between those two. No one part of the body straining for support or straining because it's given support. In the space, openness beginning to develop, especially in the front of your body, that slightly stronger feeling, denser feeling in your legs, tending to go up your back in the first instance. So your back is longer, broader than the front of your body. And then just slowly turning your head. Shoulders. As we start to move, we meet the challenge of maintaining the feeling of that posture whilst we're in movement, recognizing that the movement itself may cause a bit of tightening in your body, may just throw you out in one way or another. Going forwards. So if you notice, for instance, as your elbows come up, that you're sort of stiffening up, this time, just imagine somebody pressing down on your shoulders as your elbows come over. Make it a smaller movement until you feel that you can make the movement nice and smoothly. And same with all the movements that we do. Now, widen your hands. And then turn around. And just remind yourself every now and then, you don't need to hold yourself up. If you've got your posture correct, natural structures and strength in your body to support you. And back the other way. Rest your hands, use them forwards and push back. Turn a little. and then in the other direction. And around. And then back the other way. Coming back to the upright position, then one foot stepping forwards. On the other side. Good. Now, hands at the sides. So in a similar way to that I was describing with the rooting down, with the exercises that have become more familiar to you, like the ones we're about to do, they too can have this process of being allowed to happen. You have the shape in your mind, you know the exercises, you know the routines, and it's not that there isn't more to learn, but you've gotten past the, oh, what's he doing now with his arm kind of stage. So just imagine the shape of bird folds its wings, and then just allow your body to flow into it. And the same with subsequent exercises. You'll find it works better with some than others. And those are the ones which you feel most at home with, perhaps able to relate to the image of it, the name of it a bit better, something like that. And this time change to fisherman castanet. Again, very simple movement, so a simple idea. Just the sense, it could be the image that the name suggests, or just this sensation of your arms swinging, whatever is most familiar and most useful to you from the exercise. And again, let that create the shape that your body flows through. rolling the ball. And this time, the pigeon spreads its wings. And then pushing away. And now, twist in your hands. And back to pigeon spreads its wings. A little sequence. And again, the sort of image of the movements in mind, but also the feeling of movement, other factors that aren't necessarily related to a particular exercise, but you know, the common ground of these movements, the rhythm, the flow, and so on and so forth. These are also things that you, again, imagine and simply let your body find its way to them. Just noticing whether there's anything in its way, whatever that may be. And then turning your hands out. Now, polishing the table. Remember, just noticing if your attention has drifted off, you've probably retained some kind of semi-conscious awareness of the exercise that you're doing, but the front of your brain may have switched off or switched to something else. And if that's happened, just bring your attention back to as full a sense of the movement as you can. Do this one more time on each side. This time as you come back, excuse me, hands palm up, pushing down through your hips. Try and feel this as an expansion from your belly. Imagine there's a ball in your belly, and here the ball, it's like somebody's squeezing on the ball and they're pressing it in, and then what will happen is it will expand. That expansion, you push your hips down into the chair, push your feet down into the floor, and that will rise up through your upper body. This time change into the wild goose. So as I said, some shapes you will find easier to create in front of you. Some will work better with this idea of just sort of allowing your body to flow into that shape, to flow into the pattern. And obviously from a point of view of keeping the movement accurate, we have to try and maintain that shape while we're going through the movement. Heart in the clouds. Do one more of these. Then it's going to be dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Now bringing both hands over into your lap, pushing in 2 directions. So again, if you find yourself straining, just remind yourself you know these patterns. All you've really got to do is to imagine, envisage the pattern there around you, and encourage your body to just flow in and out of the pattern. Now this time, going to add the turn. And the turn is from your hips and your waist, so just bring your attention to that area, or rather follow your hands back to that area, and then turn in as you push out. And then scooping the sea, looking at the sky. And then change into grasping this tiger's ears. You're not sure of a movement. Watch what I'm doing. Try and pick up the key features. So with this one, for instance, I tilt forwards and I just allow my arms to move around that curved pattern out from the body, up and then back in. You may also notice that my chest opens up and then closes. One more time. So that information is put into the pot with the rest of the details, changing over. And then changing. and then just sitting back and resting. Once again, just trying to sort of engage with a picture of your body inside and outside, a sense of it's like the layout of this inner landscape. Just taking a slow, deep breath as you do that. And then, once again, rocking your weight forwards and backwards. With a little bit of a turn, one direction, and then in the other. So again, you can imagine the curve out from the middle, 1 foot, and then back, and then out on the other foot, and then back. And then you feel how the upper part of your body turns with the turning in your hips, and over, and back. And then your hands in front of you. You can be hitting the ball in front of your shoulder. So using the image, familiar image of throwing the ball up. Just let your hand push out, meet the ball, and then back. Do one more. Change now to cow gazes at the moon. So it's just exercising. A little bit of caution with this one, don't go too far. And then coming back to the center. And this time, as you turn, go forwards, you're going into parting the wild horse's mane, into the right foot and back, holding the ball over your left hip, moving across and turning to your right, and then forwards into the left foot. And again, back towards your right hip. Hold the ball, move across. In addition to the actual movement itself, and if you like, the mechanics of the movement, the choreography of the movement, if the name, the imagery invokes other qualities. You know, my first teacher, Bronwyn, used to talk about parting the wild horse's mane, and you know, this image of the horse with the flowing mane and tail running across the plain or whatever it's running across, very graceful animals that can run for a long time, that can sustain that energy. That too becomes part of the movement that you're allowing yourself to flow into. One more on each side. And then rest. Rubbing your hands together. Again. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. Arm. One side. Upper part of your chest. Belly. And finally your legs. And then pushing the ball of one foot down into the ground so that foot sort of pumps up and down, getting the blood flowing up through your leg, your knee, and the calf, and the thigh, and the foot itself. And then keeping the heel up, and now you've got a stone underneath your foot, just rolling in a sort of circular way. And then with the other foot, first of all, up and down. And then round. Okay. And then standing. So this idea, if you like, of the body flowing into the movements doesn't mean that you're not working hard. It just changes the nature of the work. And it's this integration of mind and body, and it's related to the idea of intent. Intent is part of this whole process. We have an idea, if you like, or an intention to do something, and the body responds to that. So it follows that the intention has to be correct. It's no good, for instance, thinking, okay, my intention is to stand in good posture. If your weight is back in your heels, remember where you want your weight to be ideally is just behind the balls of your feet, and so on and so forth. But also an idea that, as one book that I came across said, that your root should be 6 feet below the ground. So when we're sinking down, and we're thinking of our center of gravity dropping. We want it to drop somewhere right down through the ground. We imagine it dropping right down through the ground. That's the shape that we create in the mind, that enables the integrated mind and body to develop the root. So then, letting your hips drop back and pushing up and thinking. Remember, you're not controlling your body, you're allowing your body to follow your intent. And it's arguable. I mean, intent is perhaps what happens when what we might think of as thought or an idea or an image begins to translate into a physical act. One more time. And then changing. And then change again. So from moment to moment, the shape, the pattern that you're imagining is just ahead of you. Remember, it's not mind over matter. We're not trying to impose something on the body, but rather from one moment to the next step of the pattern will emerge. And obviously that's predictable with a regular exercise like this. But even so, we're not here with our hands crossed. We're not thinking of our hands up in the air or anything, because that just wouldn't be practical for the body to get there. So we're not dominating the body. We're trying to just open up the space. Okay, shake out. 1 foot forwards, transferring the weight, transferring your intent from 1 foot to another, and just allowing time for that sense of the deepening of your root before you move your weight again. It only takes a split second, because of course we're now talking about these things being, in one sense, at the speed of thought, the speed of intent. This is very much part of the meditation element of Tai Chi, of course, and it improves your ability to focus here. And as always, this has enormous benefits for mind as well as for body. And it's not like you're concentrating on one thing the whole time. As you move from 1 foot to another, you're your intent, your focus changes from one foot to another. And then you begin to raise your toes and your heel. And then stepping in. And then on the other side. Raising your toes and your heel. And stepping in. Take a few full steps. And then the other direction. Okay. Straighten up your feet. Left foot forwards, fisherman castanet. And then sink back and turn towards your front foot. So wind blows the willows. and then stepping in. Okay, then on the other side, so right foot forwards, fisherman cast the net. And then sit back and then go. And stepping in and out. Lovely, and then let's shake out. Good. Find your chair again. So again, find your posture, get that sense of that real drop in, still in the chair. Now you can imagine the root going 6 feet below the ground. Let your hands come down to your sides. And then embrace tiger, return to mountain. Again, imagine, envisage whatever is appropriate for you with this particular exercise. This is one of the advantages of the regularity of the sessions that we do, the repetition, the familiarity with particular movements. One more time. And breath. Lovely, thank you very much, everybody. Are there any questions or comments on that?